All right, welcome to part 2 of the Sci Fi Case project. So again, these are real-time tutorials on how to create the case, and essentially this is where we left off last time with these 3 pieces. Essentially the goal today is to kind of make this in the centerpiece here. And I purposely left one side where I didn't have the supporting edge loops to show you how soft it looks and kind of rubbery versus the firmer parts here. And this is known as soft selection. So if you hit the 1 key, you go to normal view, and then if you hit 3, it's a smooth mesh preview. It's known as smooth mesh preview. So right now you can see it's a little bit faceted. You can actually change that in the attribute editor. If you click on the shape node here and go into the smooth mesh preview, and here it's set to level 2, you can kind of drag this slider to level 3. And you'll see it just smooths it out a little bit more. So if I click off here, you can see how that sort of improves the preview of this. So what I'm looking for is basically, multiple levels of depth in this, and you can see on this side there's not supporting edge loops, so that's what creates that softness. And we're going to kind of go over that today, how to create that effect. So using edge loops. So I'm going to turn on, let's see, wireframe on shaded again. Again, you can click on this little icon here, it kind of does it too. And in the channel box here, I've actually think it'd be great to add a layer here, so a display layer. So I'm going to add this to the display layer just by clicking on this little icon here. And you can turn on and off the visibility. That just helped me in terms of, when I want to look at it and not look at it. So with this object selected here, I'm going to go to the polycube input, and I'm going to change some divisions. So I'm going to start off with the depth here. And I think I'm going to go with 6 divisions across, so that'll give me a center line here to work with. And I'm going to add some additional edge loops in here for this. For the height, I'm just going to have 1 edge loop, which I'm going to show you a new tool here that I haven't used in a long time, the split edge loop tool. And then for the width, I think I'll add maybe 6, looks pretty good, to get these kind of nice even squares here. And hit the F key to kind of frame in on this. And this looks good. So the first thing I'm going to set up is this center line edge loop here. You have to kind of think about things when it comes to modeling, and as you can see here, there is an extrusion that goes out here with these 2 base lips, and then these rings on top go over it, but they don't go over in the center here. So I have some spacing here for that. So basically I need to add some divisions here along each of these this single line here. So under the mesh tools, here's the offset edge loop tool. In fact, on my custom shelf, I'm going to add it next to my insert edge loop tool. Again, all I got to do is hit the control and shift key to click on it, and it will add it. So here it is here. Actually, I already had it in here. I forgot I had it. So actually I can right click on it and delete it, and then I'll just move it by middle clicking and dragging it down here next to the insert edge loop tool. So it kind of makes sense now. This would be offset. And the way it works, you basically click on a line here with a tool, and you can kind of see some guided lines for your edge loop. So I'm going to make the first one kind of tight here like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an edge loop on each side here. And so I'm going to use the insert edge loop tool for that one. And I'm going to double click on it to go into the options. And I'm going to set it to multiple edge loops. And I'm going to set to 1. The reason why is I want it to be evenly distributed on both sides. So I'm going to click once here and once here. And then set this back to relative and close out. And so now one of them is still selected. I can click on the arrow tool, escape out, and then I'll hold the shift key and double click on this one. So now I have those 2 edge loops selected, and I want to scale them in. So I'm just going to hit the R key and kind of scale them in to get something like this. So this is the part that I'll extrude out eventually, these 2 big blocks here. But first I'm going to do the interior sections. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude out this section here and this section here. But I want to have a couple edge loops in the middle here. So again, I'm going to use that offset edge loop tool again just by clicking on it. Again, it's under mesh tools. If you haven't had it at your custom shelf, I'm going to click right here and just drag in to get something kind of like that. That looks kind of good. Click out. Always remember to click out with the arrow tool to escape out the process. And then I'll right click on the mouse and choose faces. And I'm going to select these interior faces. So I'm going to select this one, and let's see, this one, and is that right? Let me zoom out here for a sec. Turn on this one just to come back and reference. Yeah, so I got 2 sections there. Okay, so I'm going to hold the shift key, and I'm just clicking here as I add these. Now you can do it that way. That does take a little while. Another way to do this is you can click on here and then go to the end where you want it to be and double click, and that will select the faces in between. It's kind of a nice trick. So again, I'm holding down shift, click once, and then double click, and I'm basically still holding shift the whole time. I realized I selected the wrong ones though. I want to select this one and then double click there. So on this side, again, I'm going to click here. Nope, not that one. This one. And then I want 3 at the end here. So double click here, double click here, double click here, and double click. Again, I'm holding shift key with each of those clicks. And now I'm going to extrude. So I'm going to hit, now I can use the extrude tool in a couple different ways. Extrude tool is under, let's see here, is it under mesh tools? I always forget where it is up here. Yeah, it's under edit mesh, extrude. It has this nice hotkey of Control E. You can also find it in the modeling toolkit here, which is right here. I like the hotkey, so I'm just going to hit Control E. And what I'm going to change is this thickness value here. So I'm going to type in 0.05, and you'll see that it goes up in direction. I just want that to go down, so I can just add a negative in front of it. And voila, now I've got some recessed areas there. And that looks pretty good. That's kind of what I was looking for. Okay, so next thing I want to do is I want to bring out the sort of molded face here. Now if I click here and hold the shift key and double click, I'll select the entire edge loop. If you hit number 4 on the keypad, you can kind of see through. And I don't want to do that, so I'm going to hit 5. I just want to select this face, and then again hold shift key, double click. So I just want the front part here to be selected. So again, just double click, and then I'm going to again do Control E. This time I'm going to increase the thickness to 0.05, and this time I'm going to let it come out instead of in, so that looks pretty good. I like that. And just checking it, how it looks. Now if I hit number 3, you'll see how rubbery it looks. Not so great. So you have to add edge loops to support that, which we'll do in a sec here. The next thing I want to do is add those thinner areas. So if I click out and go turn on this layer 1, it's these thin rings here. We've got 1 on each kind of separation between the islands, and then they have a connecting part in the back here. So I'd like to do that, and I'm going to do that with the Insert Edge Loop tool. So I'm going to double click on this tool and choose multiple edge loops, and again this time I'm going to do 2. So when I click on here, I can immediately scale them in. So I can hit the R key and kind of scale in, and I kind of want these to be a little bit thin, so something like that. And then again click on Insert Edge Loop tool, click here, and then immediately hit R and scale those in. And I'm just kind of eyeballing how much to scale these in to kind of see. It's okay if some are a little bit thicker, a little bit thinner. Doesn't have to be absolutely precise, but yeah. So I'm gonna click here and immediately hit R and then scale in, something like that. I think that looks pretty good. And then click on this one and one more here, immediately hit R and kind of scale in, something like that. Should do it. Yeah. And then one more for the back part. So I'm going to add them right, I think, yeah, maybe right here. And then hit R and then scale those in kind of tight. Alright, now all I gotta do is select and extrude. So I'm going to right click, go to face mode. Maybe I clicked on the arrow to escape out. And I do want to be aware of where so I don't want to select this entire ring, if I double click on this, you can see I'm selecting inside here, which would be problematic. So I could do that and then deselect these interior pieces, and that might be easy to do. So I think I'll do that actually. So I'll just come in here and double click, hold the shift key on each of these, double click, and then on this one, so on this one I think I only wanted to go, yeah, in between the two. So what I'll do on this one is I'll click here and then hold the shift key, double click, click here, double click, click here, and double click. So everything's selected what I want, but I do need to subtract some selections. So these interior faces will be some weird, some very problematic kind of things. These, if I extrude them in, they would create some weird overlapping geometry. So you can hold the control key to deselect. I can also hold the shift key, but I'm just holding control to deselect these interior faces here. So I just need to do that with a couple of these. Hold control, click, 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 and then one more here. So again, holding control, and then one more here. That looks pretty good. So if I hit number 4, I can kind of see, what's being selected, and that's kind of what I want. I want these lines to kind of wrap around, like on this one, but end at the front here. So with that selected, I'm going to hit Control E to extrude, and I'm probably going to put up, I think maybe 0.04. Let's see what that looks. That's a little high. I can change to 0.03. Now, sometimes it's a little hard to click in here. You can always go into the attribute editor, and you'll see that same value in here. Let me close that out. Let's see, where is it? It is, here it is right here, the thickness. So 0.04. So sometimes easier just to select there. So 0.03. And after I click out, you kind of see it updates to 0.03 there. So I think that'll be good. Again, I'm going to right click, go to object mode when I'm done here, and then hit number 3. And so everything looks fine. There's no weird overlapping geometry. Now it's awfully rubbery. And so I'm going to show you how to correct that in the next tutorial. I think this is a good sort of stopping point here for the Sci Fi Case. So until next time, see you soon. Cheers.